Session is going to be about 50 minutes. We're going to go through some theory, so the science and the anatomy of how we breathe, the nervous system, and how our breathing and our nervous system affects our levels of stress. We'll do some practice, so the differences between dysfunctional and healthy breathing, and the effects that dysfunctional breathing can have on our health. And then we'll go into a series of breathwork exercises, which will segue into a nice breathing meditation, which you should then hopefully float out of here feeling lighter, brighter, and more clear in the mind and the body. So to begin with, let's take a pause. Find a comfortable seat where you're sitting nice and tall, shoulders are relaxed, and then either closing down the eyes or just softening the gaze to a point in front of you. Just tune into your breath. Breathing in and out through the nose. Lengthening and slowing down that exhalation. Just being aware of any thoughts in the mind, any tension in the body. Recalling your experiences of the day. And then as you breathe out, just letting go of the day and breathing into this present moment. And breathing out, just relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the body, softening the jaw, softening the face. And then just taking 3 more good breaths here as you arrive into the arena, onto your seat, and into this space. And then when you've finished, when you're at the end of your 3rd exhalation, just bow the chin down, flicker open the eyes, and then lift the head. And let's get into the presentation. So we'll cover some breathing anatomy first. So as you can see, we have an image of the respiratory system here, which consists of our nose, our pharynx, our larynx, our trachea, the bronchi, and the lungs you can see here. Nasal breathing, our nose is our primary entry for the air into our body. The mouth has absolutely no function whatsoever when it comes to breathing. And we'll come to the benefits of nostril breathing very shortly. The diaphragm is our primary breathing muscle, which is located just below the lungs here and above the internal organs. And this is our primary breathing muscle, and it's responsible for around 80% of our breath capacity. But for a lot of people, as we'll come on to later, many people breathe up into the chest, their diaphragm is inactive, and breathing into the chest comes with a whole host of issues for your well-being. The lungs are divided into 2 lobes, or 2 lungs. And we have the upper lobes and the lower lobes. And then the alveoli are the small sacs within the lungs at the end of the bronchi where the oxygen exchange takes place. So as we breathe in, the diaphragm contracts and moves downwards. As you can see here, this lowers the pressure inside the lungs and causes the air to be inhaled, where the lungs inflate, the rib cage expands, and the diaphragm contracts and pulls downwards. As we breathe out, the diaphragm relaxes, the rib cage contracts, and the air leaves the body. So we spoke about the alveoli. If my video will work here. So the oxygen diffuses through the walls of the alveoli into the surrounding capillaries. And carbon dioxide plays a very important role in this mechanism. A lot of people say that carbon dioxide is a waste gas. It's not a waste gas. The role of carbon dioxide when we breathe is a catalyst for the oxygen to be released from the blood to oxygenate the cells of the body. So it's really important when we breathe to maintain a balance of oxygen and CO2 in the body. And for many people who breathe dysfunctionally, i.e. breathing through the mouth, for example, they release all of that CO2 from the body. The oxygen stays more tightly bound to the blood and it doesn't release into the cells. And this creates hyperventilation, it creates stress in the body, And with that, it creates inflammation, and it can play havoc with our cardiovascular system, our hormone system, and it can lead to brain fog, lack of mental clarity, and a whole host of other issues associated with our health, which we'll come on to shortly. So the autonomic nervous system, we're interested in the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system activates our fight or flight response. The parasympathetic nervous system promotes relaxation, which is also referred to rest and digest. So for many people, their sympathetic nervous system is constantly activated, whether that's through external stress, through poor breathing habits, through a whole plethora of different issues that we can face in life. But chronic stress comes at a high price for our health. So what we want to achieve through daily life is short spikes of activation of the sympathetic nervous system, i.e. when we need to get out of bed, or when we're getting ready to go to work, where we're under pressure for a deadline at work. But then we want to lower that stress level back to a baseline where we've got parasympathetic activation of the nervous system. I'll skip through that one because we'll be here all day otherwise. So what actually is stress? So the dictionary definition of stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances. So who in here can relate to being highly stressed? Yeah. We've all experienced high stress at various times in our lives. So external stimuli, work pressures, family obligations, environmental triggers, and the dreaded digital distractions of which we all seem to be chained to these days. These stimulate the mind, it releases stress hormones into the body. These distractions, if we don't keep them in check, constantly flood the body with stimulating stress hormones, and we get stuck in a chronic loop of stress. And the effects of this lead to mental fatigue, overthinking, anxiety, reduced well-being, and an agitated mind. So who here has experienced that feeling of anxiety and agitation, overthinking? Yeah, it's a familiar. So this is the stress performance curve. And this was a law or a model designed by a parapsychologist called Yertz and Dodson in the early 20th century. And it proposes there is a model between stress and task performance. It proposes that you reach a peak level of performance with an intermediate level of stress or arousal. So if we look at the quadrants here, wrong one. Oh, that wasn't meant to happen. No, I'll take a deep breath. There we go. That isn't me, by the way. So you can see here, in this first quadrant, we may have too little stress, we may be underloaded, we may be lethargic or inactive. Here, we're pretty chilled out, we're rolling on with life. And then between here, this is our optimum level of stress where we want to experience spikes of stress throughout the day. But if we maintain our stress levels up here, at our peak performance, we can only maintain peak performance for a short period of time before fatigue sets in, followed by exhaustion. And then if we stay in this chronic loop of stress, our performance and our well-being slowly deteriorates, where we start to experience anxiety, panic, anger, and then at the very extreme of this curve, burnout and breakdown. And this is something that I experienced 10 years ago following the birth of my son. Going through a series of life changes, career changes, I ended up at that stage of burnout where my nervous system was completely dysregulated. And this is what led me to breathwork and yoga. Here's a simple exercise just to bring awareness to our breath. I know that we did a little bit of breathing at the beginning, but this is something to bring awareness to how you are actually breathing right now. And this will segue into the next section where we look at healthy versus dysfunctional breathing. So sitting nice and tall once more. Finding length in your spine. And closing down the eyes, softening the gaze, and then just tuning into your breath once more. And without trying to change anything, just noticing how you breathe right now. Noticing where your breath originates. It's like an earthquake has an epicenter, our breath has an epicenter too. And noticing where your breath is felt most in the body. And are you breathing deeply or are you breathing slowly? Is your breathing rapid or is it slow? Is it deep? Is it shallow? Or is it somewhere in between? And then tuning into the texture of your breath. Does your breath flow smoothly and freely, or is it jerky or agitated in any way? And if there was a word that you could use to describe your breath, what would it be? And then just bowing down the chin, flickering open the eyes, lifting the head. Does anybody have any observations that they would like to share about how they were breathing just now?
Small rolling wave.
Yes. Okay, yes. Yeah, brilliant.
Sometimes I'll be breathing, and every now and then I'll get used to it.
Yes, taking a deeper breath. Yes. Yeah. Big sigh. Yes. Yeah. We'll come on to that later. Yeah. Does anybody else like to share how they're breathing right now?
It's not really my breath, but I feel like I can feel the tension. When I'm paying enough attention to my breathing, I can feel I'm aware of the tension in my shoulders as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, when we drop into the breath, when we drop into our bodies, we start to observe the sensations of how the body's moving and where we're holding tension while we're breathing, we become attuned to actually where we're holding tension and breathing into those areas. And just as we exhale, just allowing the body just to soften can help to really release tension from the body. And it also helps to shift stress hormones from the body as well, stress hormone cortisol, which we need in order to get us moving. If we have too much of that stress hormone in the body, we become dysregulated. So these breathing exercises really help to balance the nervous system, shift the stress hormones from the blood, and bring us back into that restful state of parasympathetic activation. So, how can breathing impact our stress and our nervous system? So, dysfunctional breathing contributes to high levels of stress due to stimulation of that sympathetic nervous system. Whereas healthy breathing contributes to balancing levels of stress by balancing the activation of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Our body is always seeking homeostasis if we work with it. So there are many different ways that we can breathe dysfunctionally, and these are some of them: mouth breathing, faster breathing, upper chest movement. Quite interestingly, paradoxical breathing, which I see quite a lot with my clients, where instead of expanding as we inhale, their rib cage contracts, they breathe into the chest, and then when they exhale, their rib cage expands. That's the opposite of how we want to be breathing. If your breathing can be heard during rest, sighing or yawning, noticeable breaths prior to talking, all of these are signs of dysfunctional breathing. So can anybody recognize any of those patterns there? Yeah? Yes? Yeah. Yeah, so the good news is these patterns can be fixed quite easily by retraining our breath. Just like we go to the gym to lift weights, to train our body, we can train our breathing and our nervous system by implementing some of these practices. So, what are the causes? Habits. We're never taught as kids how to breathe properly. We don't come with a user manual. We're often just left to breathe. Chronic stress, lack of physical exercise, processed foods, and one in the middle there, a deviated septum, which I had for pretty much most of my adult life before I decided to get it fixed. I only had one working nostril. My left nostril was completely broken, thanks to being punched in the face as a teenager. So for many years, I was forced to breathe through the mouth, and this contributed to high levels of stress, anxiety, brain fog, agitation, mood swings, and I did not know why this was happening to me, and it was because my breathing was restricted. I was forced to breathe through the mouth most of the time. I was breathing into the chest, I wasn't breathing with my diaphragm, and my sympathetic nervous system was constantly firing. So what can it cause? Sleep issues, insomnia, snoring, sleep apnea, overthinking and an agitated mind, anxiety, panic disorders, bad-temperedness, that was me, still am occasionally, low stress resilience, fatigue and poor concentration, and at its extreme, it can cause blurred vision. So, we look at healthy breathing from 3 dimensions. So there's biochemistry, biomechanical, and cadence breathing. And these principles relate to breathing light, breathing deep, and breathing slow. So breathing light focuses on the balance of CO2 and oxygen in the body. So what we want to develop is a slight increased tolerance to CO2. So when you feel that urge that you need to take a breath, when you've been holding your breath and you feel that urge to take another breath, that air hunger starts to build, that's due to an increase of CO2 in the body. And that increase of CO2, like I said earlier, acts as a catalyst for the oxygen to be released into the body, into the cells. So increased levels of CO2 help to oxygenate the body. It really optimizes the delivery of oxygen from the blood into the cells. We look at the biodynamics, so breathing deep. So we want to be breathing deep using this diaphragm muscle here. Our secondary breathing muscles are the intercostal muscles that sit between the ribs. But our diaphragm is our primary breathing muscle, and it's responsible for around 80% of our breath capacity. The diaphragm is also connected to the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve that starts at the top of the head, and it meanders its way down through the body, connecting to all of the major organs. And the vagus nerve is responsible for our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest. So breathing deep, breathing light, breathing slow has the effect of raising the levels of CO2 in the body. It activates the diaphragm for deep diaphragmatic breathing, so it optimizes our mechanics of breathing. And the pace of our breathing slow with measured breaths in and out, helps to tone that vagus nerve, switches us out of fight and flight into that rest and digest. And it helps to tone the vagus nerve, and higher vagal tone is associated with increased levels of well-being, greater resilience to stress. So why do we do deep diaphragmatic breathing? That's quite a mouthful then. So it helps to control the moisture levels in the body, and this in turn creates less fatigue in the muscles. If we become dehydrated, our muscles become dehydrated, we become fatigued, and that can lead to injury as well. Most interestingly, our sinuses produce nitric oxide through membranes in the sinuses. And nitric oxide acts to dilate the blood vessels, which increases the oxygen delivery into the body. Diaphragmatic breathing also creates the optimum balance of CO2 and oxygen. And it also improves lung capacity. And as we age, having higher lung capacity is one of the key markers for longevity and health as we get into old age. So this is a really lovely quote from the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. And he says that breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness, which unites your body to your thoughts. Whenever your mind becomes scattered, use your breath as a means to taking hold of your mind again. So we can use our breath as an anchor to keep us present in moments of high stress and pressure. Simply coming back to our breath, centering ourselves, can lower our levels of stress and help us cope with whatever challenge is coming our way. So, onto our exercises. So these exercises are based upon ancient yoga techniques, ancient yoga practices that have been around for thousands of years that, for some reason, in modern life have become forgotten until very recently when science became interested in the science of breathing, stress and the nervous system. So I'm only teaching here today what has been around for thousands of years. This is nothing new, this is nothing groundbreaking, and it is something that is accessible to us 24 hours a day. So, sitting nice and tall once more, we're going to practice the breath of Ujjayi, also known as the ocean's breath, or the victorious breath, or the conqueror's breath. And the yogis use this breathing practice to conquer the thoughts in their mind. So if you imagine you are fogging up a mirror, exhaling out of the mouth, it creates a slight constriction at the back of the throat, and it creates a hissing sound as we exhale. So if you all want to try that ha sound, we want to achieve that, but breathing in and out through the nose. So opening the mouth like that creates that natural constriction around the vocal cords. And if you imagine you're breathing through a straw, a little bit like how Darth Vader breathes, but this isn't Darth Vader breath. We want it to be nice and subtle and gentle. We're breathing through the nose, breathing deep into the diaphragm, and we're breathing light and slow. So, finding that constriction in the throat, creating length in the spine, and then just softening the gaze or closing the eyes down, tune into your breath. Creating that Ujjayi breath, that slight hissing sensation at the back of the throat. So breathing in for a count of 3 silently in the mind. Extending and lengthening the exhalation for a count of 6 as you breathe out. Breathing in for 3. Out for 6. So just noticing as you breathe in how the rib cage expands as the air enters the body. Breathing out, just letting go, letting the body relax, softening the shoulders, softening the face, softening the jaw. Breathing in. Breathing in as if you are inflating a balloon. So you may wish to place your hands on the side of your rib cage, if that helps. And imagine your rib cage is expanding out to the sides, to the front, and to the back of the body. Really making full use of your breath capacity. And taking a couple more rounds of Ujjayi breath. And then coming back to your natural breathing pattern. Does anybody have any observations following that breathing exercise? Noticing any difference? Say that again, sorry. Yes. So you were breathing, you felt it in the diaphragm, did you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, so if you imagine this dome-shaped muscle here, as we breathe in, it contracts and draws downwards. So it's like an upside-down smile, and it creates a smile as we breathe in. So we don't really want to have any upper chest movement when we breathe. All of the breathing action wants to be around this area here. And in the lower lobes of the lungs, we have a higher concentration of alveoli, which enhances that exchange of oxygen into the blood and contributes to more effective and efficient breathing. So our next exercise, kumbhaka or breath retention. If anybody has any high blood pressure or if you're pregnant, be mindful of doing any breath holds. But what we're going to do the breath of Ujjayi again with our slight constriction at the back of the throat. But when we breathe out, we're going to pause the breath until you feel ready to receive your next breath. So when you suspend the breath of the exhalation, the CO2 levels will rise. You will start to feel that urge to breathe. When you feel ready to take that next breath, just breathe slowly, deeply and lightly, keeping it measured and controlled, and then lengthening that exhalation once more. So again, finding that comfortable seat, sitting nice and tall, lifting out through the crown of the head, like a piece of string is lifting you up. Creating that constriction at the back of the throat. Breathing in for a count of 3. Out for a count of 6. And then at the end of the exhalation, just pausing and suspending that breath. And just noticing the space between each breath. Maybe inviting a sense of stillness in the body. As your nervous system begins to calm, switch into rest and digest. You may notice that your thoughts begin to subside. Breathing into clarity and presence. Creating that slight air hunger at the end of the exhalation to raise the CO2 levels, to enhance that oxygen delivery. And as you do these exercises, you may feel your hands start to get warmer. You may feel increased saliva in the mouth. And this is due to us slowing down the breath, enhancing that oxygen delivery where it reaches all of the limbs, the organs, all the way through to our fingertips and toes. And then coming back to your natural breath once more. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? Any observations? Yeah? Yes? Yeah. The warmth. Tape your mouth up. Use mouth tape. Steph, did you want to share?
Yeah, just super relaxing.
Yeah.
Really relaxing.
Yeah.
Mind was quiet.
That's it. Yeah.
Very present.
So as we switch off that sympathetic response in the body simply through connecting to our breath, we turn on that rest and digest. And it helps with digestion of food. It helps with sleep. And particularly if you're active, if you go to the gym, it really helps with recovery after the gym, where we can really begin to switch out of stress, come into relaxation. It contributes to muscle repair, contributes to muscle building, so it increases the absorption of nutrients into the body. It helps to lower blood pressure. It helps to lower the heart rate. You may experience a lower resting heart rate. And with that, we switch off all of the stress hormones that are in the body. We start to release the happy hormones such as serotonin, oxytocin, and it enhances our overall well-being. So our third exercise, that's not me in the picture, by the way, although we've got the same haircut. Some of you may be familiar with box breathing, also known as sama vritti in Sanskrit. So we equalize the length of the inhalation, the pause at the top of the inhalation, the length of the exhalation, and then the pause at the end of the exhalation. So we breathe in for 4, pause for 4, exhale for 4, pause for 4 before we take our next breath. Okay. So again, sitting nice and tall, creating that Ujjayi constriction for our Darth Vader breath. So in your own time, breathing in for 4, pausing for 4, breathing out for 4, pausing for 4. Do this at your own pace, in your own time. And these exercises help to reduce anxiety. They help to control hyperventilation if we are over-breathing. Like I said, it increases the oxygen absorption into the body, and it activates our parasympathetic response. There's a whole other plethora of benefits that I could share with you, but I only have a limited time today. So we're just going to do a little whistle-stop tour of the key fundamentals of what I teach in my classes and workshops. So coming back to your natural breath, just sitting for a moment with how your body, your mind feels, how your nervous system feels. And then we'll finish this session with a breath awareness meditation. So in yoga, we use the breath as an anchor for our attention in meditation. So a lot of people, when they come to me, they're like, oh, I can't meditate. Oh, my mind's just too busy. I can't concentrate. My mind won't stay still. The practice of meditation is not stopping our thoughts. It's about becoming aware of our thoughts and creating mental space between our highest selves and our thoughts so that we can be more discerning with which thoughts serve us and concluding the thoughts that don't serve us. And the practice of meditation allows us to drop out of the mind and into the body and observe our mental process while being anchored to our breath. So we're not compelling the mind to concentrate in meditation. We are inviting the mind to relax in meditative concentration by bringing awareness to our breath. So using our Ujjayi breathing for this practice, closing down the eyes once more, sitting nice and tall, creating space at the front of the body, and then once more, tuning your awareness inwards, connecting to your breath. And this is a real opportunity here to drop out of your thinking mind and into your body, into present moment awareness. So bringing the flow of your breath into your awareness. Sensing it in the abdomen and the lower rib cage. Noticing the movement of the breath out and in. As you breathe in, the body expands like a balloon. And as you breathe out, the body contracts. Maybe you can introduce some more relaxation, softening the shoulders, softening the face, softening the jaw. And then shaping your breath, using that Ujjayi breathing, establishing a deep, relaxed breath that flows smoothly out and in. And then bring your awareness to the touch of the breath on the nostrils. So as you inhale, noticing the cool sensation of the breath as you inhale, and the slightly warmer sensation of the breath as you exhale. Really taking your time to gradually focus and deepen your attention here, focusing on the touch of each breath. And as you continue to deepen into this breath awareness, relax your effort. Breathing light, breathing slow, and breathing deep. Notice with each exhalation as your nervous system begins to calm. And then just allowing any passing thoughts to be released as you exhale. So if you notice your mind wandering, just catch yourself wandering into thoughts. And then guide yourself back to the touch of the breath on the nostrils time and time again. Maintaining and deepening that nostril focus. And as thoughts arise, do not judge them. Don't attach to any stories. Just allow those thoughts to be there with a sense of curiosity and non-attachment. And then releasing any thoughts as you exhale and returning back to the touch of the breath on the nostrils. Breathing in, a cool sensation of breath on the nostrils. Breathing out, the slightly warmer sensation on the breath as it leaves the body. So continue to make that breath ever lighter, ever more subtle. And then with each breath, just imagine yourself moving towards the center of your being, towards your highest self. So allowing your mind to rest in meditative concentration with each exhalation. And just sensing the simple presence of your being here now. Sitting on your chair, with nothing else to do but breathe. And then slowly taking some deeper breaths. Introducing some movements, wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes, maybe just bringing the chin to the chest, rolling the ears to the shoulders. And then bowing the chin down, slowly flickering open the eyes, and then just sitting with the sensations of these practices. Noticing how your body feels, noticing how your mind feels, noticing how your nervous system feels compared to how it did when you walked into here just around 40 minutes ago. So coming back into the present moment, we have reached the end of this whistle-stop tour of breathwork for mental and physical well-being. So to summarize, Annie is going to come down. I've got some little cards with some breathing exercises for you all to take away. Annie, when you're ready, if you would like to come down and pass them out. So to summarize our presentation, the way we breathe can significantly affect our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And developing good breathing habits and using breathwork techniques such as the ones we practice today can help to calm the nervous system, lower blood pressure, and increase the absorption of oxygen into the body. And using breath awareness in meditation can quiet the mind, lower stress, increase focus, and improve our mood.